From the start of Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's made clear that the greatest physical threat is the Fire Lord himself, Ozai. They give him a ludicrous amount of build-up. For the first 2 seasons, we don't see his face. He is cloaked in shadow. When they finally do reveal his face, it is treated as a major event. His political power is matched only by his sheer physical prowess. At the end of Season 3, he threatens to commit genocide on the entire Earth Kingdom so that he can be king of the ruins. As importantly, he is Zuko's abusive father, even when he is not physically present. The idea of him affects the actions and thoughts of Zuko. He has poisoned Zuko's morality. Zuko is so desperate to regain his father's approval, which he equates with his honor, that he spends his entire adolescence traveling around the world, desperate to find the Avatar. When Zuko finally manages to escape his father's influences and join the Avatar, it is a triumphant moment. He stops blaming himself. Finally, his view of the world is clear, and he is able to abandon the corrupt Fire Nation establishment. So why is it that Ozai nonetheless makes less of an impact than Azula? She is the one people remember. If you ask an Avatar fan about Ozai, they would likely say that he is a strong and threatening villain. They would probably say that they enjoyed the final fight that pitted him against Aang. But if you ask them who their favorite character is, very, very few of them will say Ozai. Quite a few people, however, will say Azula. She's not only the most iconic villain in Avatar: The Last Airbender, she is one of the most iconic villains in recent memory. But why? Why do we remember Ozai's daughter more than Ozai himself, even though he is positioned as this ultimate villain, and she is only rarely the #1 threat that Aang and the rest face? This is Avatar Explained: Why Azula is a better villain than Ozai. What makes a great villain? Is it just a matter of being threatening? No. If that were the case, making a great villain would be easy. The artist would not have to devote any work whatsoever to developing the villain's character. All they would have to do is have the villain place the hero in some difficult situations, while having the villain recite a few choice one-liners. No, writing a great villain is difficult, even for a work that is otherwise very strong. The Lord of the Rings has no interesting villains, at least if you don't count Gollum as a villain, which you shouldn't. More of the focus is on how evil forces, like greed and temptation, which are given a tangible form in The Ring, weigh on otherwise good people. No one reads or watches The Lord of the Rings because they're interested in the lives and hopes and dreams of the orcs. The same holds true for the How to Train Your Dragon series. The core of that series is the relationships between the heroic characters. The foremost of these is the relationship between Hiccup and his dragon Toothless, but there's also the burgeoning and ultimately very sweet romance between Hiccup and Astrid, as well as Hiccup's relationship with his father in the first 2 movies and his relationship with his mother in the second movie. No one cares about the relationships between Hiccup and the series' villains. The first movie in the series doesn't even have a human villain. It's a huge dragon. The second and third movies do have human villains, but they are so forgettable that I do not know their names, even though I have watched every film in the trilogy at least a half-dozen times. Even Avatar: The Last Airbender, widely regarded as one of the greatest works of animation in recent memory, does not have a perfect track record with villains. The likes of Long Fang and Zhao aren't bad, and they are significantly better than Unalaq, the worst villain in Avatar's sequel series, The Legend of Korra, but they are nowhere close to as compelling as Azula. Zhao may be menacing enough that his very existence makes Zuko look more sympathetic by comparison, and his arc may be tragic, as he is so consumed by his arrogance that he fails to see that his quest to kill the moon is something of pure madness. But it's still easy to laugh at him. It's still easy to see him as just a megalomaniacal idiot. Long Fang may be menacing, but he is less menacing than the organization he creates, the Dai Li. The most memorable moment of the series involving him is his exchange with Azula at the end of Season 2, in which he admits that she beat him at his own game, and she responds that he was never even a player. But no one laughs at Azula. No one overshadows Azula. There is only one Azula. She's threatening, but so is Long Fang. So is Zhao. So is Ozai. So what's the difference? Is it just that Azula has more personality than those three? Well, that's part of it. It is true that she is a villain with more flair than the others. Long Fang is always quiet and restrained as he is aware just how tenuous his position is. Zhao and the person Ozai becomes by the end of the series are as megalomaniacal as Azula, but they don't have any fun with their villainy. That may seem blithe and unimportant, but it's not. The best Disney villains, with the exception of Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, revel in their villainy. They luxuriate in it. The likes of Poor Unfortunate Souls and Be Prepared are complete ego trips, but they're the kinds of ego trips that pull you in. They're invitations to share in these displays of villainy. And that's part of Azula's appeal too. Although what she's doing is terrible, she takes so much pleasure and satisfaction in it that it is hard to really hate her. She's the most cunning strategist in the entire show, managing to do what her ancestors couldn't by capturing the Earth Kingdom capital of Ba Sing Se, even though she is just 14 years old. Her greatest strength is her ability to manipulate people. Ty Lee may know the human body, but Azula knows the human mind. She knows what tactics to use on what people. That does not mean she is flawless. She even admits at the end of Season 2 that if Zuko does not join her, she has no conceivable, substantial path to victory. But she manages to stack the deck in her favor. This is most apparent in episode 311, The Day of Black Sun, Part 2. Here, Team Avatar has her cornered. She should feel intimidated, but she doesn't. She knows she still has the upper hand. All she has to do is wait until the eclipse is over, and she regains her firebending powers. All she needs to do is stall for time. When Sokka discovers this, she should be at an incredible disadvantage, but she isn't. Instead, she goes for a personal attack, taunting Sokka about Suki and making him feel guilty for never coming to rescue her. He rushes toward Azula, and had Toph not sensed the knife Azula had drawn, Azula would have killed Sokka, despite being outnumbered and outmatched. There is something aspirational about Azula. We may not want to burn the world to ashes, but we do want to be the smartest person in the room. And we do want to go on power trips, doing whatever we want and reveling in the fact that no one can stop us. However, Azula's personality cannot explain the entirety of her appeal, nor can the fact that she is the only one of the major villains to achieve a decisive victory. Those factors would be enough to make her the most memorable villain in Avatar, but they would not be enough to make her such a memorable character overall. Had that been all there was to her character, she would likely not be as fondly remembered as she is. She would have been merely two-dimensional. That does not mean fans would not view her sympathetically. Fans always find a way to portray characters they like as more sympathetic than the text indicates. This is what TV Tropes calls the Draco in leather pants problem, which is an absolutely stupid term that I completely adore. The reasons for this are multitudinous, and if I started to dig into them, this video would be 30 minutes longer. Suffice it to say that when fans feel compassion for a character, they want that compassion to feel justified. So they create headcanons in which that compassion is justified. However, because Avatar: The Last Airbender is such a nuanced and empathetic show, this is less necessary for Azula. The show does not look down upon people who care about Azula. Instead, the show itself cares about Azula. It doesn't excuse her actions. It doesn't say that all the terrible things she has done don't matter because her father was abusive. Rather, it simply provides a full and complete perspective on her character. She is a terribly insecure person, even though she says she isn't. As Iroh says to Zuko in episode 209, bitter work, pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. Azula's pride obscures her vulnerability and stops her from actually having to deal with it. Her pride stops her from contemplating why she holds on to the belief that her mother thinks she is a monster, even though she knows deep in her heart that this belief is not true. Her pride stops her from contemplating why she relies so heavily on fear, and what percentage of her worldview is just a result of the tyrannical teachings her father instilled in her. It stops her from considering the possibility of forming real, substantial connections. It stops her from earnestly wondering if love and compassion and empathy can be more powerful than fear. It stops her from questioning her fear-based philosophy until her friends turn against her and she is left with no other choice. This is not to imply her pride is nothing but a facade. It's real. It's terribly, brutally real. She believes she is, if not quite a god, then certainly more than an ordinary human. As she explains to Long Fang in the Season 2 finale, she believes that she and her family rule by divine right, and she believes that fact makes them markedly superior to others. However, part of her asserts that she has to love herself because no one else will. It's a belief that justifies, at least in her mind, her callous behavior toward others. She swears her mother hates her because she needs that to be the case. If she accepts that her mother actually cares about her, then her entire worldview, her entire system of beliefs, comes crashing down. Azula is a mess of contradictions. She needs time to untangle those contradictions, but she doesn't have that time. She needs help, but she does not allow herself to seek help. Diving into every element of these contradictions would take more time than the show can afford, considering that she is not one of its three most important characters. Side note, those three characters are Aang, Zuko, and Katara. I'm not saying that because they're my favorite characters, I'm saying that because they are the three characters the show gives full and robust character arcs to. Okay, back to Azula. The show presents these contradictions within her without quite digging into them. This is not a problem because the show gives her character beats enough space that the knotted depths of her psyche can be extremely effective dramatically even when the show only hints at them. This is most evident in The Beach, an episode that has been described as one where we just spend a day on the beach with our villains, but is really so much more than that. Even if it were just that, it would still have been fantastic. I want to clarify that. We don't get Ozai's perspective, we don't get Long Fang's or Zhao's, but we do get to explore Azula's perspective. That could have been enough. That they went a step beyond and interrogated that perspective, revealing the uncertainty behind it, is what makes Avatar special, and what makes Azula not just its most memorable villain, but one of its most memorable characters, period. So thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar. It's a fantastic show with fascinating characters and themes. I will have to say that this will probably be my last Azula video for a while. It's not that I don't like Azula. It's not that I don't like making videos about her. It's just that I think I've exhausted the character. I think I've said everything I have to say. And while I don't mind covering the same ground somewhat, I don't want to be saying the exact same things over and over again. So I'll be moving on to other characters and covering those more in depth. I hope you all understand. Tune in soon for the next Avatar Explained video. It's sure to be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.